But do you have a way to keep growing food after your eFoods Direct runs out? Because it's a finite supply, and you can't buy an infinite supply. But an aquaponics system is a self-replicating, decentralized food production technology that I believe is now starting to make huge waves in the preparedness movement, the patriot movement, survivors, but also progressives are into it because you could grow your own herbal medicine. You grow fish and food in the same system. And here to tell us more about it is Troy Smith, the owner of Bright Ideas. Welcome to the show, Troy.
Hello, thank you.
Get a little closer to your mic there.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in. So tell us, first of all, what is the level of increased interest you're seeing right now in aquaponics?
Right now, Mike, it's really blowing up. Last 2 years, it's really increased, and last year, it's exponentially has just really blown up. Mainstream customers, we've got people from old ladies to micro farms that are now doing aquaponics. So it's really, really popular.
Now, for those who may not be familiar with what aquaponics really means and why this technology is so crucial for our survival, really, can you just briefly explain what the system is and why it's so amazing that it needs no soil, uses almost no water, and so on?
Right. Well, you're talking about a reservoir that's got fish. The fish are producing the fertilizer. Their fish poop is actually the fertilizer for the plants. The water is irrigated to the beds. Media beds is some of the ways that people grow. There's several different types of styles you can grow in. The way that we like to describe for people to grow is in the media beds using a flood and drain system. When the water reaches the beds, we fortify the beds with biology, with all types of microbes, bacteria, and fungi, and that breaks down the fish poop. Fish poop is ammonia. It's breaking down by the bacteria to nitrates, or for nitrites, then into nitrates, which is now plant food.
Right.
The plants suck that up, that clarifies the water, and then that recirculates back to the fish.
So let me break this down. So it's a self-cleaning system. It's cleaning the fish tank, because normally if people grow fish, let's say aquaculture, they have a problem with fish waste.
That's correct.
If they grow just plants, hydroponics, they have a problem with not having enough nutrients and then salt accumulation in the hydroponic solutions.
That's true. You have to constantly change out the water solution. In aquaponics, you do not have to do that.
So if you combine these two, fish and plants, together in the same system, they clean and nourish each other.
That's right. It's synergy that works together.
And the bacteria are crucial.
Absolutely. The biology is something that you want to encourage. That's what gets the system going, and that's what keeps it going.
So a lot of people out there may have experimented with hydroponics, and they know that can be pretty tedious. They have to put in chemicals, put in fertilizers, and exchange water all the time. With aquaponics, you're not doing all that. It seems like you're mostly putting in fish food for the fish, and the rest of it is mostly taking care of itself.
That's right. With hydroponics, you're going to spend a lot of money on nutrient. You have to dump that nutrient solution every week. It does get costly, and that can be a problem to discard. With aquaponics, that water is something you don't want to discard. You simply have to top off the reservoir weekly, and you don't have to keep adding nutrients to the solution.
Now, people can, by the way, this is Troy Smith, everybody, from bihydro.com in Austin, Texas, but there are aquaponics retailers all over the nation, and there's a great book by Sylvia Bernstein, I believe.
That's correct.
On Amazon.com. It's called, what's it called? The
Aquaponics Guide.
Aquaponics Guide. That's the best book I've seen so far. This is really getting very popular because you can start this even in an apartment, correct?
Sure. Yeah, you can do it anywhere. You could do something as small as a 10-gallon aquarium and a 10 by 20 seed tray just to be able to experiment and show that you can grow, for instance, lettuce, something on a small scale.
Yeah.
You can then get the confidence to move up to larger systems, and we can help you with all that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm building an aquaponics system, and I'm going to eventually have like a 2,000-gallon fish tank.
Very good.
And maybe 8 or 10 grow beds, the Rob Nash style big grow beds.
Right.
But here's another thing. For the listeners, again, because of what's happening today, North Korea threatening America with nuclear strikes, and Alex is going to be jumping in with more news about that in the second hour, by the way. The world is getting crazy. Things that you have relied on are not going to be as predictable or as reliable, and those include going to the grocery store to get your food. How does that food get there? It's driven thousands of miles on trucks using petroleum, using diesel fuel to get it there. that may not always work out. So are you seeing this from a lot of your customers, Troy, of the different reasons that they're getting into aquaponics?
Yeah, a lot of people just want to have peace of mind of what they're eating. A lot of people are aware of what is being put on their table today is not wholesome foods. So there's a large amount of people that are there for that reason. And then, of course, there's a self-sustainability. And we are about that. Gardening is obviously the largest part of self-sustainability, and aquaponics is, if you get off the grid with like solar power, you are truly self-sustainable.
That's a really good point. And I like what you mentioned about people concerned about what's going in their food, because here at InfoWars, Alex has covered, and I've covered also extensively, GMOs. And we've covered the things that are in your food. For example, a lot of fish in the ocean are contaminated. Even farm-raised fish are contaminated with heavy metals like mercury, sometimes cadmium, and other things that you can find in the fish out there. But if you grow your own food, literally, you know exactly what's in it and what's not in it.
That's right.
You can trust it at that point.
Yeah, so you have total control over that.
Well, so how easy is it for people to get started? I mean, I've seen aquaponic gardens growing in reclaimed bathtubs from the junkyard, right, or barrels, or just any container that people can find.
Right, and I agree. I encourage that. Like, for instance, April 15th in Austin is the bulk pickup day. I would encourage you, if you don't have a container that you can use, go down the street and find a container, something that's large enough to hold fish and water, a tray that's large enough to hold media, and bring those to us, and we'll drill that out, plumb it for you, give you the fittings and the pumps, and fill that with media. We can help you get the fish.
All right, stay with us. We're going to go to break, but stay with us, folks. We'll be right back here on the Alex Jones Show with more about self-reliance, food production systems, aquaponics. In the meantime, we're talking about self-reliance food technologies, and I've been doing a lot of research on this. You know, my nickname is the Health Ranger, and so I'm into health and growing your own food and being self-reliant and preparing in every way possible. So I began to do some research on what is the best system for people anywhere, anytime, to produce food so that they know what's in it and no one else can control them. If you have your own food, you are self-reliant. If you don't have your own food, you are a subject that can be controlled very easily by controlling the food supply. So I found bihydro.com, Troy Smith, the owner of Bright Ideas here in Austin, Texas. Bright Ideas, B-R-I-T-E. bihydro.com, who founded this store that is now in the center of the Austin aquaponics explosion. Word is spreading everywhere that you can grow your own food and fish, protein, easily, inexpensively, and safely. So Troy joins us in studio here for a couple more minutes to talk about this. So Troy, things are going crazy in the world. Now, I know you might not want to pay attention to all that, but it's happening. This is going to cause, I think, a rush of people into these kinds of technologies that can give them more security. Are you seeing, I mean, what are your thoughts on what's happening with North Korea, by the way?
Well, I think it's definitely something that we all need to take seriously. We should take precautions and be prepared. So those of us that want to take care of our families should get a plan, and feeding your family should be on the top of the list.
Absolutely. Are some people feeding themselves as much as like 50% of their diet off of these aquaponic systems at this point, or what are you hearing?
They certainly could from the veggies. The fish, it would take actually large tanks in order to provide that much fish.
Yeah.
But you can get a lot of benefit from getting the benefit of extra fish. Eventually, you're going to have more fish than you need, and those can be harvested, and obviously you can eat that.
So we are talking about what can happen is independent people producing food everywhere. This is also an important issue for urban food production.
Right.
So right now, a lot of urban food is really the crap food, excuse my language, but it's the worst food you could buy. It's the processed, MSG-loaded, aspartame, genetically modified garbage. So couldn't people, in a small amount of space in a city, they could be growing, even on a rooftop, they could be growing a significant part of their diet?
That's true, and with aquaponics, you can grow in a very dense situation. In soil, the plants compete for the nutrient that's in the soil, so they have to have more room for their root zones so that they can grow to their potentials. In aquaponics, you're delivering all the food and water to the roots, so you can grow very, very densely. You'd be very surprised in a small area how much you can really produce.
They were just showing footage there for those of you watching on PrisonPlanet.tv. That's footage, excuse me, that I shot at Bright Ideas. here in Austin, showing the aquaponic grow beds and the grow media. You'll notice there's no soil in this system. Those are expanded shale rocks, basically. There's no soil. The water is recirculated, so you're not using up the water. Also, importantly, you're not using municipal water on these systems, because a lot of people don't realize crops today are grown in fluoridated water.
Right.
So, I mean, you're eating like concentrated fluoride in your plants in a lot of conventional crops.
That's right. So good source of water is very important. Something to think about. In conventional farming, you use a lot of water. The water goes through the water table. It evaporates to the environment. In aquaponics, you recirculate the water. You actually use 10% of the amount of water in aquaponics as you do in conventional farming. 1/10
the water. There you go. That's good news for those in LA, Arizona, dry, arid areas. Anyway, this is the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams sitting in today. We'll be right back with more on Food Freedom Technologies. We've got Troy Smith here from Bright Ideas in Austin, and that's bihydro.com, just like it sounds, bihydro.com. And he's not a sponsor of the show yet, but we're going to try to talk him into no, oh no, we crashed your server, man. Oh no, your website's down.
Oh no. It's a good sign.
Yeah, well, as this grows, you're going to need to beef up your server, that's for sure.
That sounds good.
But for those of you listening, just try it again, in a few hours. So bihydro.com is down. This happens all the time. I'm telling you, the Alex Jones Show has a huge reach. You're reaching a lot of people. What do you want to say to the million people listening right now about aquaponics?
Aquaponics is growing. It's something that everybody can achieve. If people are out there thinking it's something that's too difficult and too complicated, it's very, very simple. We can set you up very easily. It's very, very easy to maintain. It's not going to take a lot away from your lifestyle. And
yeah, it's pretty much like once it's going, I mean, you have to cycle some things at first, but once it's going, it pretty much runs itself.
That's right.
Now, here's another thing from a nutritional aspect. Listen in, folks. This is crucial. You know the importance of trace minerals like selenium and chromium for proper blood sugar regulation, for example, or magnesium, zinc for immune system function. These minerals, and this was actually brought to my attention by your guy there, Jason, brilliant guy who works at your store, that if you actually are putting these minerals into your soil plants, then the minerals are being lost and they're not going into the plants. But if you add these minerals to an aquaponic system, because they're being recirculated in the water, your plants are going to uptake 90+% of the selenium, which means you eat those plants, you are in fact nourishing your body with those trace minerals that are missing in everyday foods.
Right, and that's why we encourage the media beds, because that's where you can fortify the beds. We like to encourage, for instance, green sand, Minerals Plus, rock phosphates, things of that nature. You can put all that right into the media beds, and getting that fortified is going to give you all those extra minerals.
That's crucial. All of my research, Troy, says that eating minerals in their inorganic forms, non-organic forms, like non-plant forms, is really not that beneficial to the body. Like magnesium oxide, for example, not that useful compared to something like magnesium malate, which is more bioavailable. But when you put minerals in the grow beds in an aquaponic system, the plants take them up and they convert them into bioavailable minerals, which is what keeps you alive, folks. I mean, you want to heal well, you want to be resistant to a biological attack or an epidemic outbreak, you want to be immune to the flu, you want to not have heart disease, not have cancer, you need to get these minerals into your system. Selenium prevents cancer and boosts brain function, prevents Alzheimer's and dementia. This is the technology to get the minerals into your body. It works.
That's right. Yeah, so there's no reason why you can't have a truly wholesome food. It doesn't cost a lot of money to fortify the beds. It's inexpensive amendments, so I encourage it.
Well, very good. I want to thank you, Troy. It's great having you here. I hope that your store does well. I hope your website comes back up eventually. You might want to call your webmaster when you leave here. Yeah, but Bright Ideas is the name of the store in Austin, Texas. And again, there are aquaponics / hydroponics everywhere across the country. So get the books, get the knowledge, so that you can be more self-reliant and you can actually nourish your body. You can grow medicinal herbs, you can grow antibacterials, antivirals, you can grow medicine, mineral-rich foods, you can grow it all, even in an apartment using no soil whatsoever. That's aquaponics. So thanks, Troy, for being here. It was great to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.